friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are going to be tier ranking every single one of the 84 books I read in 2024. Now, I don't know if tier ranking videos are out of fashion these days, but I don't care because I love doing them. I love watching them, so we are gonna make one. We're gonna start with our tiers. We have S tier, which are the absolute best new favorite books that I read last year. We have great book, something that I really enjoyed but just didn't quite make it into the S tier. We have good book, great read, solid, enjoyed it, but didn't have some special quality to get it into the upper tiers. Just okay is a book that I read. It existed, it was fine. And then we have the hard pass tier, which is for all of the books that it's not that I regret reading them per se, but I just didn't really like them, wasn't a fan, and could have done without reading them or something of that nature. So we are going to start. These are not in order, okay? But we are going to start with A Haunt for Jackals, which is the second book in J.L. Odom's Land of Exile series, which you guys have been listening to me talk about ad nauseum since I read the first book in 2024. Haunt for Jackals was everything I wanted from the sequel to By Blood, by Salt. I absolutely loved this book, and it is absolutely going to be our first S-tier read of 2025. Absolutely loved it. Edge of Collapse was a book that I read kind of on a whim. I needed something completely different from what I was reading, and this was a Kindle Unlimited read. It was an indie author, and it's a dystopian, like, post-apocalyptic story. This woman is not only trying to survive a post-apocalyptic setting, but also she is being chased by a horrible, awful monster of a man. This was a book that definitely, I binged it. I would give a lot of trigger warnings for this book because especially the beginning is quite difficult to read, and honestly pretty much everything about this woman running away from this horrible awful man that was keeping her captive. I'm gonna put this in good book. I did enjoy a lot of aspects of it. It was a quick bingeable read. It was unsettling a bit to read as well. Quiet Vengeance. This is the story of two young kids who grow up on completely different sides of the classes of their world. And they're drawn back together as young adults, and it's very political intrigue. It's kind of a post-industrialism ancient fantasy, which I found really interesting because the world feels very ancient, but industrialism has been left behind, and that's almost the ruins of this story, which is super cool. I'm going to put this one in good book. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the character work was really interesting. The concepts in the world were definitely the star of the show for this one. Blood Reunion by J.C.M. Byrne. This is book 3 in his Hybrid Helix sci-fi space opera about a superhero type character named Rohan, who is a incredibly strong, basically built to be the super soldier, but he just wants to have a quiet life and tow spaceships into the station, and that never works out for him. So I've really enjoyed this series for the most part. I think this one, I don't know. I think I did like this one a little bit better than book 2. This one has kind of a vampires bent to it, space vampires, which I thought was super cool. So I did enjoy that, and it was really fun to be back on the sentient space station with the crew from book 1. The Company by KJ Parker. This is going in S tier for sure. I think that KJ Parker's atmosphere is masterfully done. He's so good at it. And this book is not for a person who wants to be driven by plot with their reads. This is a intensely focused character exploration, which I loved. I think it's brilliant. It is very alternate history vibes instead of the true fantasy, but it was fantastic. The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger, who is a local author to me, actually, here in Minnesota, and I read 2 William Kent Kruger books last year. This one was not my favorite. It was okay. He's a very excellent writer, and that was something that I picked up on right away. You can tell that he really knows this area of Minnesota and writes about it incredibly atmospherically and beautifully. I didn't love some of the reveals of this story. They were not poorly written by any stretch of the imagination, but they were, I don't know. I didn't like the tropes that he leaned on for the murder mystery reveal at the end of the story. We need to find a great book in here somewhere. Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. This was a reread for me. I hadn't read this for probably 8 to 10 years. And this one was, I'm really torn on this one, you guys, because I liked it a little bit less than the first time that I read it. I think I'm going to put it in great book, the great book category, because I still love so much about this book and so much of the moments and the characters, but there were some things that really bummed me out rereading it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time, which actually surprised me. But there are still some really incredible moments in Memories of Ice, so I want to put it in this category for now. Next up is a novella, Andrew D. Meredith's Fleeting Word. This is a novella in his Collation Saga series, and I really enjoyed this, you guys. It was a short little bit about a couple of side characters from the main series, and takes place chronologically before the events of the main books, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think we'll put it in great book for now. Hawk Song by Amelia Atwater Rhodes. This is a YA fantasy it was written quite a long time ago. So like the kind of 2000s era, paranormal, shapeshifter kind of YA romance era. This one I did not like at all. I feel like it's going to be a hard pass for me just because it's really cool to me that the author was so incredibly young when she wrote it and showed a lot of skill at the age that she wrote this. It fell into a lot of those YA romance tropes that I can't anymore. And even if I had read it, I don't know what I'd have thought of it back if I had been like the target audience age reading it for the first time. I honestly don't know if I would have liked it or not, but there were some very, I don't know, I just didn't like it. I struggled with it. There were some very cool conceptual things going on in that with the shapeshifters that I thought she did in a different way than a lot of the other authors I've seen, but I didn't love it enough to put it any higher. Next up is Malice by Keigo Higashino, and this one is the first translated book in his Detective Kaga series, and I loved this book. This was more of a whodunit than a whodunit kind of murder mystery, and again, it's very character focused, and this was honestly the perfect gateway for me to get into a little bit of murder mystery and thriller. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it in great book. I really enjoyed this. I don't know why this is not letting me, okay, there we go. Yeah, super good book and made me settle in for the entire series of what's been translated so far. I'm really hoping that we get more translated books from this series because there's like over 10 of them and only 4 have been translated so far. So hopefully more Higashino releases in the future. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I read this in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping coming out, and you guys, this book, oh my gosh, like, I don't understand this book. I don't understand why, I don't understand. I don't understand the point of this book. I know that's super articulate. It kind of character assassinates the main villain in Hunger Games and several other side characters that it didn't make sense. It wasn't that it wasn't what I was expecting, because I didn't know that I was going to enjoy this very much, but I really can't stand this book. I really don't think it did the series any major service. So I'm going to put this one in hard pass for now, because I don't really see that this adds anything to the Hunger Games universe, and I actually feel like it detracted from a lot of the things that she set up in the main series. So that is my final word on Songbirds. The Curse of Shalion by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is an incredible fantasy. that is, it almost reads like historical fiction in a way with fantasy elements. It has a lot of really dark, like death magic in it, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be as dark as it was. Phenomenal character work, amazing political intrigue, and man, can this woman write some prose. Oh my goodness, it's absolutely beautiful prose. This is the first book in her World of the Five Gods series. And I'm going to put that one in S tier because it's just that good, you guys. It is excellent. I did read Paladin of Souls, book 2, which will be coming up later in this tier ranking. Now we have Deltora Quest. For those of you that want a little nostalgic throwback, Deltora Quest is a middle grade fantasy series, and I had never read it. My kids were huge fans of it. They read it with my husband this last year, and they absolutely loved them, and they said, "Mom, please read these books." So I read all 8 of the main Deltora Quest series and really enjoyed them. I think that they're a really excellent middle grade fantasy option if you have kids of that age or no kids of that age. It's really good. It's creative. It doesn't feel like the author was just kind of churning out a middle grade fantasy series. It feels very unique and creative, and she takes a lot of risks with the world building, and there's some subtle themes in there that I feel like it's a great way to introduce kids to fantasy that makes them, it's a little deeper, and it actually makes them think a little bit, but also is incredibly entertaining at the same time. So I'm gonna put those in good book, because they were really, obviously I'm not used to reading middle grade, so I had to really separate my typical expectation of what I look for from my reads, but I really like them for middle grade fantasy. Back to the Hunger Games universe, we have Sunrise on the Reaping, which is the story of Haymitch, the main mentor character from the original trilogy, and my biggest complaint about Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was just that it detracted so much from characters that I loved from the trilogy. And my hope was that Sunrise on the Reaping was just not going to destroy Haymitch's character, which I know is like a super high expectation to set. But it didn't. It was really everything that I was hoping it would be. It felt familiar, it felt comfortable. I slipped back into the world and those character POVs very easily. Love Haymitch as a character. Did it reinvent the wheel in any way? No. Was it crazy surprising in any way? Not really, but I didn't really want it to be. I just felt so happy when I finished reading this book, and that's what I was looking for. I wanted a return to that kind of nostalgia that the Hunger Games brought me all those years ago, and I feel like it accomplished that. Next up is a memoir by Donald Stratton, who was a survivor of the USS Arizona battleship during Pearl Harbor in 1941. This is a brilliant memoir, you guys, and I'm very careful about how I rate memoirs because I think it's so much different rating fiction than it is talking about a memoir of somebody's life experience. This, honestly, though, is such a phenomenal Pearl Harbor era memoir. I think it's a great starting point, too, for anybody who might be interested in learning more, but might be a little bit nervous about something that feels very heavy and detailed and military. He does a great job of presenting the humanity of Pearl Harbor and the men that lived through it and died in it. And life on the ship, what the ship was like. It's very immersive. He's got a voice that you can tell that he's being very true to his own opinions, but he does it in such a way that it feels like he's just having a conversation with you. And I was so impressed by that. I think it's an absolutely brilliant memoir. Next up was an advanced review copy that I received from Anthony Ryan. This is a dystopian, post-apocalyptic. It kind of bridges the gap, I feel like, between YA and adult, where we have these younger characters that are dealing with some YA type things, but it also has an incredibly bleak and gritty world that it kind of leans into kind of the Maze Runner feel, where I think it can be enjoyed by either age category pretty easily. And this is about a young woman who, kind of like in Maze Runner, but it's very much its own thing. She's running out to these ruined cities to get supplies to bring back to these people that are, you know, they're walled in one of the last places of safety in this world. And the way that he deals with zombie / vampire monsters in this book was really interesting. I really liked that a lot. And it's incredibly bingeable. It's not that long of a book, and I had a really great time reading it. I think I don't know where to put this one. I feel like we're going to put it at the top of good book because I really enjoyed the experience. There were a few things that I had kind of criticisms or nitpicky kind of things about, but overall I thought it was a really solid dystopian read. The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. If you guys have heard me talk about this book this year, you know that I'm about to gush because what an incredible book. Honestly, you guys, this is the story of a young woman, a single mother, who's a housekeeper by trade, and she's hired to take care of the house of this elderly professor whose memory resets every 80 minutes. And it's a tiny little translated contemporary novel. It's absolutely beautiful. I love this book so much. It was in my top 4 reads of 2025, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love this book. That is a book that I would recommend to pretty much everybody, which I don't say about a ton of books. The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Now, you know that this was a polarizing book in my household last year because it was on Ben's top 5 reads of 2025, and it was on my most disappointing reads of 2025 for exactly the same reason, which is fun because I love being able to have conversations with my husband about books we read that are different because it just makes for a much more interesting discussion. But this one, I had obviously grown up with the movie and enjoyed it a lot, really loved the characters, and that part of The Princess Bride where we're getting more backstory on some of those beloved characters like Fezzik and Inigo was amazing. But William Goldman, I felt like, was too busy looking in his own mirror through a lot of the book, breaking the fourth wall, coming in with all of these kind of meta conversation points. And I don't want that when I'm reading fiction. I just wanted the Princess Bride story. And I got whatever this was. And it was way more big-brained and felt a little bit more like Gene Wolfe than The Princess Bride. So it was a hard pass for me, you guys. It's not that it was poorly written, and there were sections of that I really enjoyed a lot that kind of expanded the stories of some of our characters from Princess Bride, but yeah, it was not a book that I enjoyed reading. Next up is Many Are the Dead, another Anthony Ryan book. This is a novella in his Raven's Shadow series, which starts with Bloodsong, which I absolutely love. And this was such a solid novella, you guys. I really enjoyed this a lot. It expands the world and the cultures of some of the different peoples within his world, and I really, really enjoyed it a lot, actually. So I think I'm going to put it up in the great book. I had some good novellas this year, which is always awesome. Moving on to the next Keigo Higashino book, we have Newcomer, which is actually my favorite of the books I've read by him so far. This one takes place in a small community in not downtown, but just Tokyo, the city. And it's kind of a small town feel within Tokyo, which is super cool. And it's this little area with shops and families that have owned these shops for sometimes generations. It's a very settled community, small town vibe. And when a newcomer to the community is found murdered, we start going around the community and learning the stories and secrets of all of these different families and kind of solving their own little mysteries as we work toward the larger mystery of this murder and how it happened. And I loved this book. I absolutely loved this book. This one was very much what I have been looking for in murder mystery. I love the character focus. I love that we still get that community feel. It's not a motley crew by any means, but it kind of has that vibe where you're getting to meet all of these really interesting characters and slowly unraveling the mystery through it. So yeah, phenomenal book, highly recommend. Next up, we had Gloves of Eons by Andrew D. Meredith, which is book 3 in the Collation Saga, epic fantasy. And this book was, you know, when you get to a point in a series where you open the first pages and start the POVs of those characters and you just feel comfortable. Like you come in and you're like, I know these guys. And I felt that so strongly when I opened Gloves of Eons, coming back to these characters after a fairly longer than I'd like to admit break between the second book and this one, and really enjoyed it. I love the way that Andrew works with faith and religion within fantasy in such a nuanced way as a backdrop to all of the political moving that's going on in the story. It's so cool to see an author take the time to really dig into the nuance of that. So I'm going to put that one here. I don't know. I think I would put it above Fleeting Word. I really enjoyed both of these. But Fleeting Word was such a condensed, obviously as a novella, condensed story compared to Gloves of Eons, and I do feel like the world expanded a lot in book 3. Another memoir that I read last year, Escape from Camp 14, written by Blaine Harden, but it is the story of Shin Dong-hyuk. I'm trying to remember. I might be misremembering his name. I will put it on the screen if I said it incorrectly. I apologize. But this is the story of a young man who was actually born in one of the labor camps in North Korea before he escaped. And this story is not for the faint-hearted, you guys. This is a really bare look at the worst cruelty of humanity and the struggles of somebody who was almost raised like an animal and had to, once he escaped, learn how to be human as an adult with some horrific trauma background. It was so honest. I love when memoirs are so open and honest, and the gentleman who was writing it, Shin's story changed as he became part of this kind of global story where he came out of a place where he was treated like an animal and had no awareness of the outside world, suddenly, once escaped, thrown onto a global stage and having his story picked apart by people from all over the world. I can't even imagine how insanely just mind trippy that would be and how you would ever work your way through that. And so a lot of his story changed over time as he tried to cope with all of the trauma he's working through at the same time as the world is like demanding to know his story, basically. Absolute S-tier memoir. It's phenomenal. Definitely, again, lots of trigger warnings on this one, but just a phenomenal memoir. Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. This is book 6 in the City Watch sub-series of Discworld, and I absolutely loved it. We have a very strong focus on Commander Sam Vimes in this book, and we do a little bit of time traveling, and I loved it so much. One of the things that I did have a little bit of a more trouble with in this one is that we turn away or leave our main motley crew of City Watchmen from the rest of the series, and that was a little tricky for me because I do love Sam Vimes, but the thing that I love the most about him is him with all of the City Watchmen. So it was still an S-tier, absolutely brilliant book because it's Terry Pratchett writing the City Watch, so of course I loved it. But I did find myself a few times really wanting to go back to the Motley Crew a little bit more. But some of the darkest Terry Pratchett writing that I've read towards the end of the book, and just some brilliant thematic moments. Stoner by John Williams. This is a very lauded book around my booktube vicinity. And again, John Williams is such a brilliant writer. Augustus is one of my books of the year from the last few years, and just still one of my favorite historical fiction books I've ever read. Phenomenal book. Amazing writer. He does such a great job of thematic character writing. I didn't love Stoner as much as I think a lot of my friends did. I found it is very melancholy, very depressive. There's a couple moments in it where you're like, oh, hey, we're gonna, and nope, kind of, sort of. I mean, I really love the stories that tackle quote unquote ordinary, or what some people might consider boring lives, which I love that John Williams tackles that and says, no, I'm going to tell you the story of this man and write it beautifully. And he does. But I didn't leave this book with any sort of like positive feelings. Not that I have to all the time, but I don't know that I got out of it something that I will remember for a long time or found incredibly impactful for myself. So yeah, I think I'm gonna, it was okay, honestly. It was just okay. It was fine. It was well written because it's John Williams, but I loved Augustus way more. The Golden Goblet by Eloise Jarvis McGraw is a historical fiction about a young boy. It's a middle grade novel about a boy named Ranifer in ancient Egypt who is under the kind of oppressive thumb of his older half-brother, and he has a dream of becoming a goldsmith. And this is a very tense, there's a bit of mystery going on in this book, and it is one of my favorite reads of my entire childhood. I absolutely loved this book, and I read it with my son this last year, and we both just had a phenomenal time reading through this again. This is such a great book, you guys. I absolutely love Golden Goblet so much. Definitely a gritty middle grade though, so be aware of that for any young readers. I do feel like my son at about 12, 13, that was a pretty good fit for him, and it really depends on the kid, obviously, but there are some, you know, the main character being in a situation that is a little bit abusive with his half-brother, so just being aware of that. Arm of the Sphinx, Book 2 of Josiah Bancroft's Books of Babel, which I started reading because it is now my husband's, one of his favorite fantasy books series of all time. And I really enjoyed Book 2 quite a bit. And I think I'd have a different, even better experience with it on a reread. But this is the part of the series where I started to see what I was going to come to love so much about it, and just had such a great time with this book. You get more of a motley crew in Book 2, and you get to see more of this incredibly unique world building and concept with the Tower of Babel and all of the different levels of it as our characters kind of move on through the tower. And yeah, I'm looking forward to rereading this series, honestly, you guys, because I think Book 1 and 2 I'm going to enjoy even more on a reread than I did the first time. Spy Family Volume 13. I'm still really enjoying this series. I still have a few critiques of it, but overall it's so much fun. It's good, it's fun. I am having a really good time with it. I don't know where to put this. I don't know where to put this at all. Actually, I think we're just gonna, it was good. I don't remember anything specific about it, which is why I'm just putting it in good. I enjoyed the read, but there weren't any events that I remember in that one that would put it into a higher category. The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. This is a historical fiction about the women divers off of the coast of Korea on Jeju Island during, before, during, and after World War II era. And it exposes what happened in Korea during Japanese colonization, before World War II, World War II, and then once the Americans came in afterwards. And it's, again, Lisa C. does not pull punches at all with her books. So there are a lot of things in this book that are incredibly difficult to read, but she does it in such a way that it is just so phenomenally written. Her characters are so vibrant and just come off the page, and you're invested in them so quickly. The opening of this book is so powerful and tragic, and like, it's just so good. She's such a good writer. This one was also in my top books of 2025. And it's an S tier. That was another incredible historical fiction from Lisa C. I absolutely loved it. Another top 10 read of 2025, The Hod King, which is book 3 in the Books of Babel. This one's got to go up here, you guys. Man, where do I put this? I'm going to put it up there. Do I even put it above The Company? Yeah, I do. I do put it above The Company. Phenomenal. Amazing book. There were some character moments in book 3 that will live rent-free in my brain forever. It was just... and my favorite character of the series was cemented very heavily in book 3, so it was just such a phenomenal read. Highly recommend Books of Babel for anyone that is looking for incredibly unique fantasy reads. Also very character-driven. Then, I'm sure you guys are sick of me telling this story at this point, but I asked my friend Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads to give me a recommendation, a Stephen King recommendation that he thought I was most likely to enjoy and give 5 stars. And shockingly, he knows my taste very well and picked the exact correct book. I read Doomakey by Stephen King, my first official Stephen King read, and wow. I understand why people love his writing. There were a couple nitpicky things I had with this book, but honestly, you guys, what an incredibly amazing thriller, like horror thriller. There's a little bit of a cosmic vibe to it, and it almost feels in the beginning like you're reading a slice of life story about this man who's had this horrible workplace accident. His life has been upended in a matter of moments. And he's trying to kind of find himself again and figure out if he has joy in life in any way, and takes a trip for a change of scenery, and things start getting weird because it's a Stephen King novel. But man, the ending of this book, you guys, I could not put this book down. In the last climax of the story, wow, incredible. So this one... yeah, that's at the top of great book for me. That was a read that I was not anticipating loving as much as I did. All right, The Fifth Elephant by Terry Pratchett, which I absolutely loved. This one has kind of a Transylvania setting where we get werewolves, vampires. Sam Vimes and some of the City Watch go to a different city and deal with some of the mystery there. And just loved this book. Loved it. There's some absolute kick-butt character moments in this one. I'm trying to think where I would put this one. Probably way up there. Yeah, maybe? Here. We'll put it there. If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. This one was a disappointment for me. This one was just okay. There were not enough cats in it, you guys. If you're going to put a cat on the cover and have cats in the title, the cat was kind of the ending afterthought, I guess. And it's a story of a man who makes a deal with the devil to try to live longer, and he has to give up something from the world in order to do so. And it gets more and more difficult every day. So... the concept is interesting, but again, not enough cats, and it was okay. I've read quite a few translated novels now, and this one is one of my least favorites. I just don't think it had the same impact as some of the others that I've read. How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. This is famously known as one of Hayao Miyazaki's favorite novels, the creator of Studio Ghibli. And this one was a disappointment for me too, you guys. This one... it's about a boy who, it's a little bit slice of life, and he's learning some lessons about what it means to grow up and have friends, and there's a lot of twists and turns with their relationships, but it, at the end of the day, reads more like a lecture. And I know the author was trying to create a moral document for young readers, and I feel like it came across way more heavy-handed than it ever needed to, and like whether you agree with some of the moral lessons taught in the book or not, which I didn't agree with all of them, it was too heavy-handed. It was too heavy-handed. I didn't love it. True Grit by Charles Portis. This was a book that was recommended to me after writing Cold Silver by several people, actually. And the story of Maddie, whose father is murdered, and she goes to hire somebody to take down her father's murderer. And it's a great, solid, canon Western book. And I can completely understand why it's been so popular, because Maddie as a character is just one of those young women that will not give up. It's, you know, the title is True Grit for a reason. And I really enjoyed this story. I had a few qualms with it, but overall I had a really good time reading it. The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. This one had entirely enough cat in it. What an amazing book. It ripped my heart out in the best way possible. It's the story of Nana, who is a feral cat outside who gets injured and adopted by a young man, who then they go on a road trip together, and they're going around and basically meeting a bunch of people from this young man's life, and he brings his cat along with him. And I'm not going to say more about the plot because I think you should just experience it for yourself. But this book will, like, get your tissue box ready because, oh my goodness, what a heart-rending story in the best way possible. I absolutely loved it. I cried quite a lot, and this was also a book that I had in my top 10 last year, so that's gonna go in S tier. I love how many S tier books we had last year, you guys. So many good books. Bead on an Anthill by Delphine Redshirt. This is a memoir by a member of the Lakota tribe and her experience growing up kind of in between that Lakota culture and Western culture. And there were so many, like, learning about her culture and her childhood, and I loved how much of her own language she includes in the book. She uses a lot of her own Lakota language and includes translations to show us the way that they would talk about these everyday things in their own language, which I loved. I think as a memoir, as a book, this one was tougher for me because I don't feel like it was written in a very engaging way. And I felt like some of the conclusions that she drew were a little bit far-reaching, which I was bummed by because, again, I loved the way that she was so true to her language and her culture in sharing that in the memoir. So this one was just okay. I was bummed because I was hoping to enjoy it a lot more than, or feel, not even enjoy isn't the right word, but be impacted by it more than I feel like I was. And I think a lot of that came down to the writing. Dracula by Bram Stoker. This has been on my classics bucket list for quite a long time, and I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. I wasn't expecting to, honestly. Not that I wasn't expecting to enjoy it at all, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So, Dracula, yeah, I mean, especially, I would say the hard part is this is kind of split into two halves for me. The first half of this book, S tier. Incredible tension, incredible use of horror at a distance, which I think is something that a lot of modern horror doesn't do much anymore. But the second half of the book was a lot of characters just making really dumb decisions for the most part, and really got frustrating after a while. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to put that here. I think, and that could go into the top of good book for me as well, because I don't know, that second half definitely would drop it a category for sure. Hey guys, so I want to take a super quick break before we go back to the regularly scheduled programming, just to say a huge, massive thank you to my wonderful, amazing patrons. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much for supporting what I do here on the channel and my work as a writer. For those of you that don't know, down in the description box below, there are a ton of links to all of my social media accounts. Please feel free to follow me and catch up on any of those. And there's also a link to my website where there's a whole bunch of information about my fantasy books if you want to check those out. You guys are awesome. Thank you. If you enjoy my content, like and subscribe, and stick around on my little corner of the internet. The next one is Isaac Storm by Eric Larson. This was a book club pick for my book club with my husband and 2 of our college friends that we do every year. And this one is the story of one of the meteorologists from Galveston, Texas, when one of the worst hurricanes ever seen at that time hit this little port city and just absolutely devastated the population, the architecture. It wiped so much of the town completely away, and it killed a lot of people. And this kind of shows, there's a lot of science in this book that explains the nature of hurricanes and what was known at the time in the early 1800s or late 1800s, early 1900s, and the kind of politics that were at play between all of the different countries and their weathermen that kind of made a domino effect to make this a far more devastating, horrible disaster than it ever should have been. Really good book, very solid read. Would highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in reading more about that time period. Yeah, enjoyed it. It was a good read. The Last Stand of the Stone Fist by Michael R. Miller. This is another novella in the middle of a series, his Songs of Chaos series, which starts with Ascendant. This one goes back in time. It's a prequel chronologically about Brody, who's one of who's a mentor character in the main series, and his dragon and his story of how we get to where we're at in the beginning of the series. This was a really good, solid novella. I don't know, I think I'd put it here. It was a really good novella. I got very emotional at the ending. If you know, you know. And yeah, just, I love the way that Michael R. Miller writes Dragon Riders, because that's something that has to work a lot harder to hook me and pull me into the story. And I just think he did a great job with it. Oh my goodness, you guys, we have so many books left. I'm just going to read like 10 books next year, and then this will be easier. Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. This is book 2 in his Raven Shadow series. This one, I enjoyed aspects of it, but I did not enjoy it anywhere near as much as previous book, Bloodsong. I think it was definitely a step back in character quality, if that makes sense. And one of the characters in Tower Lord is incredibly heavy-handed with some of her themes, and that just frustrated me a lot. Again, great world, really enjoyed getting expansion into Valen's series or story more, but I did not love it as much as Bloodsong. The Spirit Thief by Rachel Aaron. This is book 1 in her Legend of Eli Monpress series, and this reminded me how much I love just a straight-up well-written adventure fantasy. Eli Monpress is a thief, and he is also a magician, essentially a sorcerer. He's able to talk to inanimate objects and wake them up, and that's super cool. I love the way that Rachel Aaron utilizes her magic system. It's elemental magic told in such a fresh way with some just fun fantasy adventure vibes and characters. Really enjoyed it. It actually got pretty dark at the end, which really surprised me. But I would definitely say that was a incredibly solid read. The Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors. This is book 1 of The Risen Kingdoms by Curtis Craddock. This one's like a French Revolution historical fantasy vibe, but there's also airships, and there's definitely some steampunk going on in this world building, which I really liked. And I liked a lot of aspects of this, but the direction that the author took the characters, there's a forced or arranged marriage, and that is a trope that I typically don't love. And this one was okay in some aspects, but she took it in a direction in the second half of the book that really was uncomfortable for me, he took it in a direction that was uncomfortable toward the end, and I didn't want to continue the series after I finished reading it. So that one's gonna go in the just okay category, because there's a lot of promise in there, and I don't think that the author handled the topics in a bad way. I just didn't want to read on. The Builders by Daniel Polanski. This is Redwall, grimdark Redwall, essentially. You have all animal characters, and it is a vengeance story. It is told with a really interesting story structure also, so you're kind of getting these fragments jumping back and forth between the characters. It's not a very long read, but it's fascinating, and it's a really interesting vengeance story. Now, on the opposite side, I do feel like the author took some liberties with animal characters and humanized them a little too much for my taste. And so while I enjoyed the read a lot, I don't think I would put this higher than, like, it was a good book, but some of those things just really pulled me out of the immersion. Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Volume 2. We haven't done Volume 1 yet, so I'm going to have to talk about these out of order. But this is a light novel that is based on a webtoon and a graphic novel from Korea. And it's very Alice in Borderland meets a little bit of Dungeon Crawler Carl, where it's lit RPG. You have a character who is thrown out of his life into a like horribly post-apocalyptic dystopian game that's being run in his city, and it's life or death stakes. I really enjoyed these. I think that they're quite bingeable, and they were the perfect light read for what I was looking for at the time. I have some nitpicks, of course, with this, but Volume 2 I didn't like as much as Volume 1. However, there's a young character in here that has a kick butt moment towards the end of this book that I absolutely loved reading. So I'm actually going to put that probably here-ish in Good Book. Yeah, it was good. I think I would highly recommend them so far as a bingeable read in between whatever else you're reading. The Lions of Al Rasan, my first Guy Gavriel Kay book. This one is so brilliant, and I can understand why people love Guy Gavriel Kay's prose and his character work. Some of the character arcs through this book are just absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. However, like I've said before, I think someone needs to take this man's pen away when he tries to write spicy scenes in his book, because I'm not opposed to a spicy scene. A lot of people think I am because of the way that I talk about them. I just think that most of the time they're unnecessary, and most authors don't know how to write them in a way that doesn't just seem incredibly obtuse or wish fulfillment-y, I guess. And this one was definitely in the latter category, unfortunately. There was one scene I haven't said this, I don't think, or remembered to say this in any of my other videos about it. There was a scene that I actually thought really added to the story and was funny and like was a appropriately placed spice scene. But there were others in this book that just really diminished my appreciation of the rest of the book, which was unfortunate. So, I mean, again, beautiful writing, completely masterful writing. It's very alternate history with a quarter turn to the fantastic, which is famously how his work has been described. Yeah, that's all I got. The Sundering Hours by Jacqueline Hagan. This is book 4 in her Riverfall Chronicles series. And I think, let's see, where would I put this one? I love these characters so much. I love this series. It's one of my favorite indie series, and she just keeps expanding the world. It's a very gaslamp epic fantasy, which is awesome because I feel like a lot of Victorian or gaslamp era fantasies are a little bit more condensed, and this one is 100% epic fantasy, which I love. And I loved being back with my characters again, and yeah, it was good. It did feel a little bit more filler than some of the other books in the series. But still really enjoyed it. Can't wait for book 5. Paladin of Souls by Lois McMaster Bujold. This one is book 2 in the World of the Five Gods after Curse of Shalion, even though each book in the series is technically a standalone. I didn't love this one as much. This one was okay. There were... I don't know. I didn't like the character work in this one as much. I do think that Bujold is a beautiful writer, but again, I had some issues with the way that the characters were portrayed, and I just didn't enjoy it as much as Curse of Shalion. And then there were None, another classic that I got in by Agatha Christie, and she's the, queen of murder mystery. And I had never read a book by her, which I wanted to remedy this last year. And this one was fun. I called the ending, and I knew, like, the reveal pretty early on in the book, but that didn't horribly diminish my experience of reading the book itself, which I loved. So it's very interesting. It's very tense. It's kind of the countdown style murder mystery where people just start going missing one at a time, and they're all in this house on an island that they can't get off of. So very quintessential, like, murder mystery tropes, but very bingeable. I had a hard time putting it down. It was very interesting. I like the way that she kind of stacks her plot and her characters. So yeah, 100% really enjoyed that. Did I enjoy it more than Dracula? I don't know. I'd say those two are kind of right in they're so different. It's hard to compare them, but The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is famously the first book in his Discworld series, and a lot of people say that you don't want to start here. It's one of the weakest books, or if not the weakest book in the entire series. And I do think it gets a little bit of a bad rap. I don't think it's all that bad, to be honest. I think that this book was Terry Pratchett kind of playing in the sandbox a little bit and figuring out what he wanted to write. I love the characters. Rincewind and Two Flower are a delightful Grumpy Sunshine combination, and you really do start to get a step into the Discworld, and just you can kind of see what's coming with how he settled into the series and what he was going to create later. Boy, where do I put this? I don't know. There. This is where it starts to get difficult, guys. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, next one is Holes by Louis Sicard. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a middle grade magic realism fantasy-esque story about a boy who has to go to a kind of correctional camp for something that he was falsely accused of, and he has to dig holes in the sand. And this book is brilliant in terms of the way that the story is structured and layered and the way things are revealed through the story. This is a middle grade that I think teaches its reader so much while still being an incredibly engaging story. And I'm definitely going to put it up. I mean, where do I even put this, you guys? I don't know. Yeah, we're going to put it up here. Oh boy. 24 Shadows going to go straight in the hard pass category. I gave this a 1 star this year. The author is a quote-unquote mental health professional who wrote a story fictionalized about a gentleman with dissociative identity disorder and his struggles in discovering that he had dissociative identity disorder and what that does to his family and his relationships. It has some very concerning content in it, and I know I've talked about this before, but I want to mention it every time I mention this book. Some of the stuff that this quote-unquote mental professional includes in this book is so incredibly dangerous in terms of how to treat someone with childhood trauma in certain situations, and I was appalled at what she included in this book in terms of if somebody's coming to this book and trying to understand more about DID or, how to help somebody that has it, please don't read this book. It's not great, and I think it's incredibly problematic. So that one is a super hard pass, cast it into the fire read for me last year. In better news, we're gonna move up here with Terry Pratchett's Thud, which is book 7 in the City Watch series, and I loved that book, you guys. That's another S-tier Terry Pratchett for me. We get introduced to a new City Watch member, Sally the Vampire, who I absolutely loved. And it's just more fun and shenanigans with the crew, you guys. I love this series so much, and you know that, so I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But please read The City Watch by Terry Pratchett if you haven't already, because it's amazing. Another memoir was The Opposite of Butterfly Hunting by Evanna Lynch, who played Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter films. And what a incredibly, again, raw, honest memoir where she talks about her experience with an eating disorder in a way that does not sensationalize, it does not glorify anything, but it is completely open and honest about the mindset, the struggles, the program that she was put into, and the good, bad, and the ugly of that. I mean, she just was really open, and it gave me a completely new appreciation for people that struggle with eating disorders, because I think she did a great job of explaining about it and how to help people with it without feeding the problem with her book, which is something she actually mentions in the memoir, is that she feels like a lot of books about eating disorders are focused too much on the numbers, and it actually kind of adds fuel to the fire for people who might be struggling with that and reading those books. So yeah, I mean, great memoir. I thought she did a fantastic job with it and really did a good job shedding light on a really difficult disorder. Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. This is book 1 in his space opera sci-fi series, The Sun Eater. I actually enjoyed this. I would put it... Ooh, where would I put that? I don't know. Maybe there at the top of good book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good introduction to Hadrian as a character. I love the concepts in this series so much, you guys. I love what Rocchio does with... with the concepts and world building and alien races. And I think that he writes aliens in a way that actually makes them feel alien, which is not easy to do. So shout out for that. This Too Shall Last by K.J. Ramsey. I'm trying to remember. Ramsey. This was a nonfiction book about, from a faith perspective, Christian faith perspective, on working through the struggles we have in life and finding God's grace, even when those tough seasons are happening. It was good. I think she had some really important things to say about it. I didn't love the book, but I thought it was good. I thought it had some really good, how do I put this? It had some really good thoughts, including some anecdotes from her own journey with health issues. So yeah, it was a good read. I don't read a ton of nonfiction because it actually takes me longer to get through nonfiction than it takes me to get through big fantasy books. I don't know why, but I find them harder to read. Or slower to read might be a better way of saying that. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Okay, so this was a book that my husband and I picked up to buddy read, and I promise, for those of you that are waiting, we will eventually do our review on this. This is the story of Nora and Charlie, who are both agents working in the publishing world, and they... you guys, this was not a book for me. I was trying really hard to read a contemporary romance and enjoy it. I don't love it. I think that the term romance is heavily hijacked by books like this, and what I read in this book does not feel like romance to me. It feels like very toxic, just surface level relationships that are heavily based on sexual gratification. And I said what I said. Like, I don't know. I don't get the appeal of this one. I think Emily Henry is a good writer. This is my second book that I've read by her. And I think she has some really cool work with her, setting up her characters and the relationships between her characters. But this was not, yeah, that was a hard pass for me. Claymore Volume 2. It was good. I didn't love it as much as Volume 1, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what an amazing series. This is an older manga that I hadn't read, but I'd seen the anime when I was in high school and absolutely loved it, about these women in a fantasy world who are hired. They're half monster, half human, and they're hired to take out monsters in villages in their world. And they're both revered and ostracized by society, and it's just the character work and arcs across this series. I can't wait. I can't wait to read the rest of this series. Reaper Man by Terry Pratchett. This is book 2 in his death cycle, wherein death is supposedly the main character, you would think, based on the name of the subseries. But what I've found in this book especially is that death features very little in this book, actually. There is some amazing... The parts with death in them are S tier. Absolute S tier, no hesitation. But there's a lot of characters in here that get a lot more screen time that I just didn't care about as much. It was fine. I enjoyed it. There's an ending moment with death and a character he spends a lot of time with in the book that just... It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it so much. But we're gonna put it in the good book somewhere in there. We Begin at the End. This is just okay. This was by Chris Whitaker. This was a story. I honestly don't remember that much about what it was. There's a man who was in jail who was framed for a murder, and we're kind of trying to figure out through the whole book if he actually did it or not. I didn't like the way the young characters were portrayed in this too much. They didn't feel like their ages, and they felt like they were more a vehicle for the author to like say smart stuff, if that makes sense. So yeah, that one was, it was just okay. It was fine. I didn't love it. Hunting Party by Elizabeth Moon. This one surprised me. This is a sci-fi, this book 1 in her Serrano Legacy series, and we have a spaceship captain who has been kind of dishonorably discharged from her military post due to some things that happened that she's not necessarily at fault for. And we're gonna, I'm assuming, get more expansion on that as we go through the series. But she takes a position as a captain for a luxury yacht, and the lady that hires her is just a delightful character. And this book went in so many different like directions that I was not anticipating, but I really had a great time with it. I really enjoyed it a lot. I'll put it up there in good book. I am really looking forward to continuing the series. The Lies of Locke Lamora. Do I need to say anything? Like, this is one of my favorite fantasy books of all time. It was a reread. 5 stars. No questions asked. It was amazing. Almost even better on a reread than it was the first time, which is saying something. The Lesser Devil by Christopher Rocchio. This is a novella that takes place kind of between book 1 and book 2 in Sun Eater. It was okay. It was a good novella. I did find it to drag a little bit. I didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping to, but it does take a POV from a different character, which was kind of nice because I desperately wanted that after, well, in between the 2 books of Sun Eater that I read. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a dystopian-esque book that a lot of people say you should go into blind, and so I won't tell you too much about it. This was a disappointment for me. I thought it was just okay. I didn't find it particularly engaging, and I think that the themes the author was working with, while super interesting, were not executed in a very interesting way. Ordinary Grace, my second read by William Kent Kruger. This one I liked better than The River We Remember. I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people I know did. It didn't hit me as hard. I do think there were some phenomenal moments in it, but I didn't really like the reveal of the mystery at the end, you guys. I just thought it was okay. I didn't love it. The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, which is one of my favorite covers of 2025. What a fun, this is a historical fantasy set in like Irish mythology, and Shauna Lawless is such a good writer. I'm really hoping to continue this trilogy this year because it was truly fantastic. I think I'm going to put that one here. Great book, really great book. Claymore Volume 1, S tier, man. This book absolutely won me over. It was everything I was hoping it was going to be as the first volume in this manga. I was so excited. I was so excited to read the manga, and Volume 1 just gave me every nostalgic superhero girl vibe that I wanted, and I can't wait to continue the series. I talked a little bit about this one already. This is Volume 1 of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing and Song. Liked it a lot. I liked it better than the second volume. I thought it was a great opening, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's some really funny tongue-in-cheek humor, like kind of dry humor moments in it that do take a bit of a pot shot at some lit RPG or gamer isms that I just thought were great. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, phenomenal book. I hadn't read it before, and that was my husband's pick for our book club this year, and I just, wow, like absolutely incredible read. I honestly don't know where I'd put. I think I'm going to put it in S tier. Telling such a like handling such a heavy topic from the point of view of a young girl, I think was just such a brilliant move, and really draws the themes closer to heart, and in a way that just brilliant writing. I can completely understand why this book is lauded as such a modern classic. Clear by Karis Davies. I'm not going to talk about that much either. This one was a book that I just bought based on the cover and was like, hey, I'm just going to go outside my comfort zone and grab something and try it. I will not do that again. I hated this book. I think that it was really cool at the beginning. The concept was really cool. The setting was super cool, and she took it in a direction that I felt like was false advertising, and the ending was so incredibly unrealistic and unbelievable and infuriating that I was so mad. That book made me so mad. Island in a Puddle by Kei Sambe. This is another manga. This is about a young boy who is taking care of his sister after their mother kind of neglects and abandons them. And his body gets switched with a young man who's on the run from the law, who's not the best character. And it's really interesting. I enjoyed the first volume quite a lot, and I'm looking forward to continuing. It was very interesting, and I'm very intrigued to see where he's going to go with it. I don't know where to put these. This is getting... yeah, there. Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll just put it there. We're getting down there, guys. The Promised Neverland, which is another manga that I rented from the library. This is the story of some children who are being raised in what seems like kind of a protected orphanage. And then they discover something pretty dark and sinister about what the orphanage actually is and why they're there. It was a little too dark for me. This one kind of pushed a boundary for me that I felt very uncomfortable with. I don't think it's written poorly, or that I think it looks like an amazing manga, and I know a lot of people that have really loved it. Just for me personally, it pushed into the demonic a bit more than I wanted to deal with. So I don't know, I'm sure we'll put it right here. Riven Earth by Zamar Amer. This one is a epic fantasy duology, book one in a duology, the Book of Astea. And again, one of my favorite prologues that I read in the last couple of years, and he uses a lot of not common fantasy creatures, which is super cool. Dryads in the prologue, absolutely loved it. I wish that the book had been more like the prologue than what it ended up going, the direction it ended up going after that, because I didn't love it as much as I loved the prologue. So, yeah, we'll put that one in here. Jim Butcher's Stormfront. This one shocked me because I wanted to just try it and see what the fuss was about. I like Harry as a protagonist, and I think there are some things in it that are a bit male-gazy, but the thing that I appreciated was that Harry as a character, and I feel like through him, Jim as an author, is pretty self-aware. And he didn't give me an ick, like, as much as there's a side character in here that really gave me an ick that I think is the bigger problem by far. And, you know, because it's a noir type of fantasy, there are a lot of women that just kind of throw themselves at Harry for no reason whatsoever. But I like his writing style. I like the concepts of the world and the way that he's introducing the characters. So I wouldn't say that I won't read more of it. I don't know where I'd put this one either, you guys. I don't know. We'll just throw it there for now. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This one was okay. It was beautifully written, beautiful concepts. I didn't love it. I don't feel like there was anything that stuck out to me as being particularly memorable. But, yeah, it was a good read. It was okay. Howling Dark. Where do I put this? I'm going to put that in just okay. It's well written, but I got so frustrated with this book, you guys, and you can go watch my review of it, so I won't talk too much about it. I was really frustrated with this, and I put down the series after reading it because it did not hook me the way I was hoping it would, and it just made me more frustrated than anything else. Son of a Lich by J. Zachary Pike. This is book 2 in his Dark Prophets saga that starts with Orconomics, which I loved last year. Son of a Lich is still great. It's still fun, still some great character moments, but I did not like it as much as I enjoyed Orconomics, which was kind of a bummer. I don't know where to put this one either, you guys. I'll just put it right there. The Fall of Babel. This is book 4, the final book in Josiah Bancroft's Books of Babel. And yeah, this one's fantastic. I'll put it up here in S tier. I love this book. And I know this ending is very controversial for a lot of people. I actually personally loved it because I think it stayed very true to the characters. And I can see where it's not the ending that a lot of people wanted or expected, but I liked it. I think it really, again, stayed true to the characters, which for me is a big deal. Okay. House of Chains by Steven Erikson, book 4 in Malazan Book of the Fallen. Oh, I struggled with this one. That was going in just okay, you guys, and I'm shocked that I'm putting a Malazan book there, but that book dragged so bad for me. I struggled, and this was a reread. I think that there's some amazing character arcs that kind of have a conclusion in this book, and it expands the world a lot, but my goodness, I struggled. I really struggled reading House of Chains this time, second time through. Claymore Volume 3, I'm just going to put up with Volume 2. It was a really good read. We're kind of getting the ball rolling now into some of the bigger character arcs, so I think coming up in some of the books after this, I'm going to have much higher ratings for those, and they're still great, so putting them in good book does not mean I did not enjoy these reads, by the way. Guard in the Garden by Z.S. Diamante. This is the story of a dwarven veteran who sustains a pretty severe injury, and he has to basically figure out where he belongs in life again. And it is cozy. It is really heartwarming. I really enjoyed... where do I put this? I really enjoyed this. I think that the characters are really sweet, very lovable. The setting is really beautiful. And it's just a solid story about a veteran finding some peace. Terry Pratchett's Snuff. This is book 8 in the City Watch, and you guys know it's got to go right up here because that was my book of the year in 2025. What an amazing ending to the series, you guys. Highly recommend. Absolutely loved it. In the Orbit of Sirens by T.A. Bruno. This is a science fiction book that's written by a guy who is a pre-visualization artist for DreamWorks, and you can tell because his sci-fi is so cinematic and so vibrant, and his world building is so unique and creative and interesting. Love his aliens. The cover kind of is a little bit of a deception because it is actually quite a bit darker than the cover would lead you to believe. There's some dark, like necromancy type stuff that happens in this book with an alien culture that's just so intriguing and so interesting. I had such a good time with this book, especially the second half. I had a horrible time putting it down. It was a little clunky to get going in the beginning, but again, that back half of the book, wow, had a phenomenal time with it. I think, where would I put this? I think I'd put this up here. All right, we're getting down to the last two. Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Long. Fantastic story concept, amazing writer, and I did not love this book. I wanted to a lot more than I did. I think the magic system is brilliant, amazingly shocking reveal, because I didn't pay much attention to the synopsis before I read it. But the themes were so heavy-handed, you guys. There was nothing subtle about this book, and that's just not what I like to read. I want something that invites me into a conversation instead of lecturing me or hitting me over the head with a sledgehammer, you know? So yeah, that one was a bit of a disappointment. And last but not least, we have Lisa C's newest release, or was at the time, Lady Tan's Circle of Women, about a young woman in ancient China who has skill with medicine. And it's a story of her life. It's always a kind of a generational story with Lisa C books. And I liked this one. I didn't like it as much as I have loved her other books. I don't know where I'd put this one either. I'll just put it here. I thought it was okay. I didn't think that it was as engaging. I wasn't as invested as I have been with her other books, unfortunately. Still amazing writing, but not one that I'd recommend as like one of her best. So, all right, guys, look at that. I actually feel like we had a pretty good reading year last year. Not too many on the hard pass line. So we're doing pretty well. Look at all those S tier books. So many good books last year. I hope that you guys also read some fantastic S tier, 5-star, amazing new favorite books last year. Thank you so much for all of your support for my channel. If you want to check out my links to my website and all my other social media accounts, you can go down in the description box below. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will see you in the next video.